That was an incredible 4 movies we just watched. And we have 2 of the creators here. Could you introduce yourself? Let us know who you are, what movie you were involved with, and what your role on that movie was, please.
A.D. Cooper. I judged the script competition, which was the initiation of the whole project. I supplied script editing. I then got co-opted to be director and ended up co-producing as well.
Steve Langrige. I was the writer, and I also drove a van for a couple of days. With the lighting.
You were a marshal as well?
Oh, and I was a marshal. Yeah.
Thank you both. And,
Sorry, Bradley, one quick question.
Yes?
Did you get any cake?
I didn't, no.
No, Steve. Steve, did you get any cake?
No.
So it's just van driving, no cake?
No cake.
No, I made cake. I made cake.
Oh, no,
I made cake as well. I did that something else. I made cake too. Thanks for mentioning it.
Okay, so this is, and I mean this in the absolute nicest possible way, it's a simple, delightful yet powerful story speaking to devotion and love. Where's this come from, Steve?
It came from Weymouth Beach, and I just saw a couple that just sat in silence for about 2 hours. And just, at the time I was trying to write a silent film, and it went from there really. They might not have known each other, and they could have been strangers, but they just seemed quite happy being in silence, so it came from that, it just went from there. So it was Weymouth Beach making sandcastles.
Great. And AD, you in this competition, this is where you become aware of the script, yes?
Yes.
Yeah. And what's drawn you to it?
Well, I was kind of co-opted to it. It was sort of rhetorically given to me. Insofar as the producer rang me up, she's a very good buddy of mine, she rang me up and she said, I've just had this person on the phone, I'm not going to mention any names, and he said he wants to direct the winning script, and I've told him you're doing it. All right, thanks, bye. So that's how I got the gig.
Okay, fantastic. For the older people in the audience, is this working?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. For the older people in the audience, they may be aware of Derek's, some of his past television programs. So what came first, Derek or the title of this short?
The title. So it was written about 5 years ago initially, and then I tinkered with it over the years, but it was the title first.
It's complete coincidence that we get Derek Griffith, who's famous for being in a program called Play Away.
Complete coincidence.
And the movie's called Play Away.
Complete coincidence.
That's incredible. Okay. So how close was it to the script, AD, the final product that we just saw on the screen?
Well, because I've been script editor on it as well, I think it was pretty close. It was what was on the page ended up on the screen. There were 1 or 2 shots that I added just to be a bit sort of artsy-fartsy, but just to put my stamp on it. So there were 1 or 2 shots that were not in the script at all, which I just added to show the passage of time, things like that.
Yes. And so this lovely scene at the beginning, which is it's very old school, in fact, this getting out the window and the heavy bag and all that. Was that all in the script? Yes?
Yeah. And we shot it in a place in Hampshire, and that window is a completely crumbling sort of massive mansion. And we ended up having to clean all the windows. All those window panes fell out, so they were all held together with glue tack. Literally. So we were terrified every time we went over the window with all the windows going to fall out. So all of that fun and games.
Excellent. And Derek's known for a lot of, I'll keep going on about Derek, but he is kind of a bit of a household name for us old times. Forgive me. But how was he to direct? I mean, was he a little theatrical?
He was huge.
He was huge.
You had to spend the whole time going, no, this is not showbiz, this is not a big theatre, this is you're an ordinary bloke having a quite odd day, but you're an ordinary bloke. Bring it down. And he was tremendous fun to work with. But if you said to him, right, we're ready to take now, he'd say, well, just in the middle of a story, could you just put that on pause? We just need you on set. Yeah, well, I meant that. So you have to be really definite with him. He was absolutely wonderful to work with.
Fantastic. Now, get this old school, old sort of approach, this silent movie. And you throw in a little bit of sign language. Could you just for anybody that may be wondering what that was there for, just explain the purpose of that?
It was just there really, just to explain why they weren't talking, and I wanted there to be a reason why they weren't talking. So I've written a couple of things prior to that where it wasn't really explained. So that was the reason really. I'm not sure if it was needed or not, but we got.
No. I mean, we did record sound. All of the sort of grunts and giggles and stuff were all ambient sound.
Oh, it was?
Yeah.
It wasn't any art, no.
And then we added some sound design, sort of sheep and dogs and gulls and there's things like there's something with the gulls. Once the story changes, once he's had his vodka, then it went from happy gulls to mournful calling cones, things like that, adding little touches of sound to as part of the storytelling.
Yeah, lovely. And for me, one of the defining moments of the movie, besides the end, obviously, was the beach scene. It was the building of the stone castle, not the sand castle, and the fact that we had to go back, we had to put the stick with the flag on. It was this determination, we're going to go to the end. Was that one of the key defining moments? It's almost it encapsulates the whole story.
Yeah. But it was recreating their first date, basically. That was the key. It was such a cold day. I don't know if you noticed her goosebumps, but we had to wrap her up in blankets between shots. It was so cold. It was
windy.
Yeah, it was a beautiful day, but it was very cold and windy. And she was in this little thin dress, and you can see her goosebumps really clearly. She never said a word. She was such a trooper.
Fantastic. And how did you cast them? So you got Rowena and Derek. How did you cast them, and then how did they get along on the actual shoot?
We used a very good casting director called Mandy Steele, and she found us initially a very high-end, very well-known British actress, but and we were bending over backwards to give her everything she needed. But once we cast Derek, she decided she didn't like the project anymore, and gave no real explanation beyond she didn't think that was the character, so she just bounced off. So that was fine, and we got lovely Rowena, who's a fantastic actress, and they completely gelled, and we couldn't stop them talking, and they just yacked on the whole time, which was perfect, because they just got used to each other, and they had little they worked out their own kind of intimate touches of a long-term relationship, the way you don't have to say something, you just do it with a gesture.
So Steve, as someone who attempts to write, we have this vision in our head when we're writing. And I know you're ready to say positive things, but did it translate the way you were seeing it when you were writing it onto the screen?
Yes, completely.
Of course.
No, it did. And the first scene we shot was the one in the amusement arcade, and that was surreal.
That's the first scene.
Yeah, that was the first scene on the first day.
And he's in it playing one of them.
I'm in the background.
I saw that.
Yeah.
And even when the younger people were kind of joining in, you just kept.
Yeah.
But it translated onto the screen perfectly for you.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So, do we have any questions from the audience? It'd be great if we could have a few questions.
My question is regarding the format of the image, that 4x3.
We decided because it's two people, it's an intimate relationship. We purposely did it 4x3.
And the bit, which was really interestingly done, when it suddenly looks like film.
Yes, it was. It was a wind-up 16mm camera.
That's great, because it really kind of takes you to that memory space.
And what was really odd was the sound of the camera whirring.
Nice.
You think of the sound of most sets is just dead quiet, or really quiet, and then this thing was going. It was very strange and very curious to be watching it happen.
Great, thank you.
And it was also that footage was graded slightly differently, so that you've got a real contrast with the memory, so it becomes a real memory rather than an actuality.
Great, thank you. Any more questions?
Any other questions? Hang on.
I know, I can also see this little blur of Spencer sprinting across the room.
Oh, hi. I've actually used the microphone before, this is amazing.
I was just curious about what other interesting things happened on set, because it seems like such a beautiful film. As you said, it was very cold. It was, were there any other issues you had to try to overcome, and how you overcame them?
There's lots of issues of trying to get them out of the window without them cutting various parts of their person. Because there was we did the scene when he's packing her clothes first, so that the sort of all the growth around the window is very high, and then cut it all down, so that we can have a suggestion of it had grown back. But all of this stuff, trying to get it cut down. Of course, did we have anything resembling gardening tools? No. We also had to create that whole bedroom. We had to create that within the house. The biggest problem was the haze we created when we created the cafe space, which was in the blue salon. That set off the smoke alarms, and no one had any idea how to shut them off. And how long did they run for? 2 hours?
Yeah,
Something. We were thinking, the fire brigade again turn up. But that was like, we couldn't do it in 2 hours. While this thing was going, the electrics were really erratic and strange. So anytime you plugged in, everything flipped off. So that was one of the biggest things. Was the electrics were very, very flaky.
More questions?
Hang on, oh, here we go.
One in the middle.
Sorry, can I squeeze past? I'll try not to sit on your lap. Hi, so first of all, congratulations, it's a lovely, lovely film, really nice and refreshing. And my question is just sort of, because the two performances are this strange mix of being old and being young, both very extreme things that sort of come together. I'm just wondering how you communicated that. How did you explain this sort of feeling that you were trying to get just in the performances?
I think one of the things we did was, I think Steve created a whole kind of backstory of how they met and who they were and what what he did, and that he was an alcoholic and all sorts of stuff that kind of informed who they are, the character development, so that they knew exactly where they were and they knew exactly what their little habits were. And I think that all of that shaped that performance. But they were great together, and they were hilarious together off screen. They had quite a lot of stuff when all this deeply emotional stuff, and they're all howling with laughter between takes, which is how they can just switch on that emotional strength is just so impressive to me with actors.
Great, thank you. I've got one more question for each of you. So Steve, having a little experience myself with working with older people, besides the devotion and love that we're experiencing in this story between the two, and we're going to stay there and support each other to the end, I know it's very important that independence and freedom is given to older people in that kind of situation. Was this also part of what you were feeling when you were writing the script?
Yeah, definitely. Just to show them going on kind of an adventure towards the end. They both know the end is days away, so it was just to show them trying to recreate something and to be young again. So yeah, that was definitely in my mind.
Lovely, thank you. And one more for you, Eddie. What's next?
I've just done an application for some BFI funding, all 36 pages of it. I'm developing a sports feature about women's rugby, and a supernatural thriller feature. And I'm working on a kids sitcom, animated sitcom.
Wonderful. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Steve, AD. We love your movie and look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you.